Hi, everyone. Ashley Mailloux, David Aragona here with the Daily Racing Forum, taking a look at the Thursday race of the day, September 18th. We'll go out to Louisville, Kentucky to Churchill Downs. They have an 8-race program. We're going to focus in on the nightcap, which is a first-level allowance event for the Colts and Geldings at the 6-furlong distance. And a big field here, David, of 12. And I thought it was a really tough race to go through handicapping-wise. I didn't think there necessarily was a standout.
Yeah, it's a really tough race to figure out because you've got a lot of 3-year-olds in here. It is a race that's for 3-year-old and up horses, but actually 10 of the 12 runners are 3-year-olds, and many of them were tried in stakes company earlier in their careers. Maybe that didn't quite work out. So you got a lot of horses trying to get back on track, earn the second victories of their careers. Some that have shown talent at different points, just a matter of whether or not they fit in this spot in the middle of September after 3-year-old season.
We will take a look at the Timeform US pace projection about who could maybe be involved early or late. And looks like some of the speed's going to come here from the inside Middy's Gritty, who is limited in terms of race day experience, but showed speed certainly second time out, didn't on the debut, and maybe the 7 in here as well. Faust for Steve Asmussen. A horse that doesn't necessarily make the lead, David, but some of the fractions have been so quick early on that this horse has been in that chase mode very close to it.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see how this pace develops because there are several horses in here that have the speed to go forward, or they've shown it on occasion, but they don't do it consistently. The horse that's shown on the lead, Middy's Gritty, is one of those, as you said. I mean, he was out the back door on debut, so kind of surprising to see him shown leading a pace projector just 2 starts later, but he did show a lot more speed last time. Faust has that tactical speed, as you said. The number 8, Math Tutor, could maybe be a sneaky pace player because he did show a lot of speed when he broke his maiden at a big price 2 back. So a lot of horses have the potential to go forward. It's going to be up to jockey intention.
Let's dive into it here with the number 1, Middy's Gritty for Brad Cox. Was a winner on debut and did it the hard way. Had to close from off of it. Went to the sidelines for quite some time, but came up 3rd best last time out. Sort of even throughout in the stretch run.
Yeah, this is a horse that really turned some heads on debut when he made that big run from last to first in the stretch, but he did get a very fast pace to close into that day, so I think it was a little bit of an optical illusion that he got there. And then last time, just totally different running style coming off the long layoff. What I didn't like watching that replay was coming around the far turn. It looked like he was trying to get out, and that's why he had to surrender the early lead because Florent Giroux was just kind of trying to be concerned with getting him to corner, and then he stayed on at the end. Drawing the rail here, showing that tendency last time. I worry about that a little bit with him, especially if he's really in a bunch of horses trying to jockey for early position.
The 2 majority opinions going to leave Louisiana for the first time in a long time. Last time out was 4th best down at Evangeline over a sloppy surface, and a horse that might be, in my opinion, at least in maybe the second flight early. I know this horse has had the ability to be forward, but I don't know if he's necessarily as quick as others.
Yeah, he figures to get slightly outrun in the early stages and maybe more dramatically outrun in the late stages because he's just not really fast enough to be competitive with this field, and his form against Louisiana Breds just doesn't quite stack up against this field from a class standpoint.
We'll move on to 3 next. This is Map to the Stars, who's 0 for 3 at Churchill in terms of wins, but has hit the board in all of his starts. And we actually do have a formulator fact here for Map to the Stars, which I'll let you kind of handle here, David, but it's a pretty interesting stat.
Yeah, trainer Paul McGee, who's got good stats doing various things. I mean, turf to dirt in a sample of over 50 horses over the past 5 years, winning at 27% with a very healthy $3 plus ROI. And this horse didn't run well in the turf last time, so I think he fits this stat perfectly because maybe that performance will scare some bettors away. But getting back to the dirt, that's clearly what he wants to do. And the problem with him, Ashley, from my perspective, is while you can make the case that he's a horse that's likely to maybe be in the trifecta somewhere, he just seems like the quintessential pack animal where he wants to run with the other horses. But in all of his races, it just looks like he has a little bit of reluctance to separate himself from the field. And that was on full display too back in his last dirt race when he got the lead in mid-stretch and just coughed it up late.
Yeah, I think he's one of those horses that if he wins, you're not necessarily shocked, but you become a little bit reserved based on what we've seen to date. We'll move on to the number 4, Jack's Promise, who we will take a look at the most recent effort, which was the first start off a little bit of a freshening. It came at Saratoga, another try at Saratoga, and the first one on the dirt there. And I thought visually this is a really good performance in terms of how he's going to pour things on late in here. He had plenty of work to do, and he's going to end up drawing clear by half a length. And it was nice to see him rekindle some of the prior form that we had seen.
Yeah, he was one of a few winners for Dale Romans at Saratoga, where he just won at a terrific rate. I think he ended the meet like 6 for 8 or something crazy like that. And horses like Jack's Promise just seemed to show up at that meet for him. It was a much softer field than the one that he's going to be facing here. When you look through his past performances, when he's raced against slightly softer company like maiden claimers or starter allowance races, that's when he's had success. When he stepped up against the tougher first level allowance competition, he's really struggled.
The 5 Golden Town, another big price on the morning line, was 6th last time out after trying to close from off of it at Ellis Park. Prior to that, though, I thought the effort 2 back, it was okay. Almost got up for 3rd in there. I just don't really know how to read those last 2. Kind of a similar story. I feel like this horse is maybe more competitive at the mid to higher level claimers than these first level allowance events.
Yeah, he's got that Buyer 3 back, a 95 when he won against $30,000 condition claimers back in May. Don't know where it came from and don't know if he's ever going to get back to it. If he does, he's a contender in this race, but the 2 performances since then when he was claimed away and racing for different connections just haven't been quite as good, and he's been heading in the wrong direction. So I thought it was a little tough to make a case for here.
Now, the 6 finished in front of Middy's Gritty last time out back on August 18th at Ellis Park, and sort of been a similar story in the last 3. Has been defeated by the slightest of margins and just hasn't been able to get that second career victory. Now, the blinkers come off, and I don't know how you assess that move, David. I think it's interesting. I mean, he's a horse that's never been that far off of it, so I'm a little curious as to why the blinkers come off.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're just trying to change something up because he's achieved the same result 3 times in a row. Second by a nose, second by a head, second by a neck with Buyers of 88, 88, 88. I mean, he's the picture of consistency, but he's not winning those races. So maybe they'll take the blinkers off and he'll see the competition around him and want to fight a little harder. Doesn't always work that way. I thought he got a great trip 2 back when he just missed. I thought he had every chance to get by last time and just hung on the wire. And he kind of is looking like he has that pattern to him where he gets there, but just doesn't quite finish off the job.
And you bring up the point of the blinkers coming off. It may be to see his rivals. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say that based on some of his performances, if that's the reason he's gotten beat, or just the horses that have beat him have just been a tad bit better. The 7 Faust up next year for Steve Asmussen was 3rd last time out, a horse that took a little bit to graduate, but kind of look at some of the horses that he faced. I do think he's faced some nice horses throughout his career.
Yeah, he's a horse who caught some tough company against maidens early on, and he finally broke his maiden in his 5th career start, and he's come on since then with some efforts that have seemed a little up and down when you look at them on paper, but I thought he ran really well 3 back when he just finished just behind Amor Patriae in that race on June 21st, because he took a hard bump in the middle of the stretch from a leader that was drifting out, and I think he was going to win that race if he hadn't gotten totally knocked off stride. Then in his next race, it looks bad on paper. When you watch the replay, he just got locked in behind horses in traffic from basically the half-mile pole to the quarter pole. The race just got away from him. And last time he was 3rd best, but 3rd best to, I think, a couple of good horses, one of which was Pursuit Never Sleeps, who's 90-plus Buyers in 3 of his 4 starts. So I just think Faust is landing against a field that he can be competitive with. And if he gets the trip here, I think he's dangerous.
Now, you mentioned the 8 Math Tutor could be interesting from a pace perspective. Had a very nice graduation score back on June 7th, where this one was forwardly placed, got an 85 Buyer speed figure, which was much higher than anything else he had achieved to that point. Then last time out, obviously, he lost his rider. Can't really assess the race. But I think the one thing that you can assess, David, is the fact that he ended up taking some play. He wasn't a favorite in there, but very different than his maiden score 2 back.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was surprised that he got bet down to as low as 8-1 last time after breaking his maiden for over 50-1 in the prior start. And his form is a little up and down. I mean, he lacks consistency, but the race 2 back does make him somewhat competitive here. And maybe the bettors go away from him once again, after losing the rider in the last race.
The 9 Mo Quality will see him for the first time since February, where we last saw him in the Withers. And I think prior to that, he has 3 solid efforts. Even his, most recent performance in the Withers, I don't know how to assess it other than the fact that I don't know if he wants to go 1 mile and an eighth and really liked it there at Aqueduct. But I think he is a little intriguing now on the cutback, and he's shown that he can adjust his trip based on where he breaks and, depending on the fractions in front of him.
Yeah, I think this is the right kind of race for this horse, because even when he tried to stretch out in the Smarty Jones and the Withers, and he ran okay in the Smarty Jones, but I just got the sense watching both of those races that he didn't want to go that far, and he did show talent sprinting early on, as you noted. My only concern with him, Ashley, is the layoff, because any way you slice the stats for his trainer, Christopher Davis, just has not really had a whole lot of success off breaks like this. So I wonder how fit he's going to be, but if he's cranked up for this race, I think he's very dangerous.
Dale Romans sends out Jack's Promise, also has the 10 Taylor's version, who didn't really fire on debut, but obviously was ready to roll, took that big improvement second time out. And more recently, they tried the grass. I think he's a little intriguing, kind of returning to what worked, right? Sprinting on the dirt at Churchill. That probably bodes well for him. I do wonder from a pace perspective, though, is he going to have more pressure than he did 2 starts back?
Yeah, at the end of the day, he broke really sharply from the inside in that June 27th race, quickly established the lead, and nobody could get close to him on that occasion. I don't think he's going to have as easy a time making the lead in this race, and he is pretty good out of the gate, so that's going to help him a little bit, but I just feel like this is a much tougher spot than the maiden field that he beat 2 back, and that's really the only race on his card that makes him competitive here, so wasn't quite sure what to do with him.
The 11, McDude, was able to win on debut. Then he had a couple of starts late last year, and we've only seen him once this year, where he's second behind Authentic Gallop, who was in some of the races in terms of point races on the way to the Kentucky Derby. And I actually loved his second place finish. And it's interesting. I think this is probably the right spot to regroup, take a sprint race, and then stretch out from here. But I still think he has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, he was really game in that last race. It looked like he was going to be beaten trying to come through along the inside of the top of the stretch, but he just kept plugging along, almost got there at the end. But that was going a mile and a 16th. Now he's off for a long time, coming back, going 6 furlongs. And I just wonder if maybe they're viewing this as more of a prep race, a building block race to get to somewhere, because he did show some talent sprinting early on, but he really improved going longer, especially in that last race. So I wonder if he'll be fully cranked for this one.
And then rounding out the field is the 12 Him, who had a little bit of respect after his second career start. He was able to win on debut. He's second. He took some play in the Bathhouse Row, and he was the pace setter in there, and he did surrender. He was beaten by 2 behind nice horses, Instant Replay and Caldera. His regrouping process has been, I guess, lackluster in some ways. I think they made the judgment call last time out, David, to say, hey, we need to cut him back in distance. And they just went too quick for him early. And I think he is more effective if he can be forward, which with that in mind, I think is challenging here for him.
Yeah, this horse is a bit of a tough read because he's got that one buyer in the Bathhouse Row that suggests that maybe he did handle going longer. I still think he's a better sprinter. He showed that sprint talent on debut when he won going 6 furlongs with a very respectable number for, the winter of his 3-year-old season. And he's been up and down since then. The last race, it bothers me a little, but that was a race where the winner, Big Boat, just freaked winning that race, and nobody could get close to him at the end. And him was pretty wide every step of the way. So maybe that was an excuse. It's got to save a little more ground from post 12 here, but I think he deserves another shot going as short as 6 furlongs.
And you mentioned Big Boat, a big winner, 6-length winner. They went 22 and 44 to the half. That's the field of 12 for the Thursday race of the day. Don't forget, it's race number 8 at Churchill Downs. Free pass performances on the DRF website. And it's a tricky read. I think, this is one of those situations, David, where you can go back and you can make cases, or you can see horses that have been in good recent form, but what's going to, lead to a trip to the winner's circle. And we both go against the 6, kind of with that logic of what's going to make it different today. And for you, top play ends up being the 7, Faust.
Yeah, a lot of possible ways to go in this race. I just wanted to highlight some horses that I thought would be fair prices. I almost pulled the trigger on the number 12 Him. Don't totally trust him. I just think Faust, when you look at the race where he's had trip excuses, if you can kind of draw a line through those, he's just very logical in this race, and he's got the technical speed to make a good trip for himself. So I put him on top.
And I go to the 9, Mo Quality. I completely agree with you in terms of the layoff is a little bit concerning, but curious to see what he can do here. I like this as the regrouping point, sprinting, going back to Churchill that has been successful, and he'll get Lasix for the first time. So 7, 12, 6, 9 for David, 9, 6, 1, 4 for me. It's the nightcap this Thursday at Churchill Downs. Good luck.